Hey, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
What's happening, Manny? It's good to be with you, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. We should definitely start. I know we talked about doing these more often this year, and definitely
Yeah,
let's do that for sure.
about the politics though.
Politics,
I
yeah.
like the back and forths, man.
Oh yeah, so you love this?
You got that Ben Shapiro
Yep.
Daily Wire leftist tears, dude. That was so 2016, bro. Catch up now.
Yeah, I was. Isabel, what's up? I was listening to. There are a few things that went on. One of them was a flashback. I was looking back. And all these flashbacks started when Hillary Clinton kind of came up recently, that name about her possibly jumping back in the arena, right?
Oh
I,
yeah.
I don't know how true that is,
I mean,
but
Hillary Clinton is one of the most so odious political figures in this country. Um, you think the Democrats are going to want her back?
well,
Hey, Isabel, Hell's Tavern RGV, baby, you got it.
Isabel. So it's got to be really going real bad for the Democrats that they're so desperate that they would reach out to Hillary Clinton.
It's going bad for the Democrats. Yes, it's going really bad. So bad that the Republicans, who are all in lockstep with Donald Trump, still in lockstep with Donald Trump, still think the guy is the savior of America. That guy still has a chance in 2024. I mean,
And you know what?
we're in a tough spot. As a country. If you're an objective observer, if you're
Yeah.
not a Democrat or Republican, we're in a tough spot, man.
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, honestly, think about honestly answer this. Wouldn't aren't we better off to have that versus what we got going on right now?
To have what?
Uh, Boosting economy, a better economy than what's going on right now with this inflation. Gas
But
ain't gonna hype on too much because here, anyways, it's come down. I don't know.
But inflation right now is a global phenomenon. It's not driven by Joe
I don't
Biden's
know.
economic policy. It's because of the supply chain issues that the entire world is going through. Have you seen the inflation right now that's happening in Brazil? Have you seen the inflation that's happening in Spain,
Yeah,
in
I
Europe,
get
in
that.
London? Now it's easy to point to Biden, and I mean the guy deserves all the blame because if there's one thing that Trump could do beautifully was sell bullshit, right? Joe Biden doesn't even get in front of the camera, right? So people think
Yeah.
that the guy's fucking useless. Can I cuss?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So the American people, even Democrats, at this point, what was his last polling that I saw? With 33%.
33%, which is that's almost like an automatic no confidence vote. Like
Right. I mean, it's pretty bad, and I mean his successor Kamala Harris, I mean, is just as bad as Hillary Clinton was as far as her likability, right?
yeah.
But the economy, I mean, there's no way to know this for sure, but there's unless Trump had some kind of immediate plan, which from everything he was saying before the election, unless he had some immediate plan to combat the supply chain issues, he'd be going through the exact same thing right now. The economy would be going through the exact same thing
But the
because
difference is, and you know this, for as much as people who don't like him, don't agree with him, all that, I get it. But dude is a businessman, and he wouldn't let it get this far. He would take whatever he could do. He'd say, you know what, this is not right. Let's figure this out, and he would go at it. And I mean, I don't want the country to fail, not just because of Joe Biden. Oh yeah, I don't like Joe, so I want the country to fail so he can look bad. Hell no, for sure not. But Joe doesn't even give himself a chance. That's why I certainly think somebody else is pulling the strings.
right, but
Obviously, they don't let him talk. They don't let him, you know.
okay, so the idea that Trump is a businessman and that he has everything under control, I think, is the most overblown idea
Really?
that oh yeah, dude. I mean, well, first of all, Donald Trump inherited first of all a booming economy from Barack Obama. You can look at the numbers. I mean, people when I say that, people look at me like I'm fucking crazy. But then I show them the numbers at how many jobs Obama created in his last what was it in his last year in office compared to Trump's
So,
first year in office, and Obama blew him away. I
so,
mean,
so, so you're giving
Obama was the jobs president, and I'm not even a Democrat. I
so
didn't even like
everything
Obama.
Trump did in his time here, with the booming economy, with the jobs, you're going to give all that to Obama?
What I'm saying is that when you inherit an economy that's pointed right here, right, and the trend line is going up and it keeps going up, I mean, make of that what you will. Give the credit to who you want. But what I'm saying is that any objective observer, for example, of the stock market,
Yeah,
of GDP growth, and Obama inherited the Great Recession, right? So I mean, if you're going to give Trump credit for the jobs that he created, well, then you also got to give Obama the credit for what he did. That's
and in
all
all
I'm saying.
fairness, yes, so some of that carried over for sure. It's not like inauguration day everything vanished. No, I mean things were in the works, and yeah, some of that stuff is, as much as I hate
Now
to say it,
the
I didn't
biggest
like the man, but
right, the biggest credit that Donald Trump deserves is not for the economy because the economy is going to be the economy. The biggest credit that Donald Trump deserves is for bringing awareness, bringing everybody to the forefront on what an enemy China really is, and on challenging China. That's the number one. Oh, and Operation Warp Speed.
yeah,
Those two things are really Donald Trump's legacy. I mean, like I said, the economy. It would have trended that way regardless. Um, but I mean, here we are, dude. We're in a post-pandemic economy. The supply chains were I mean, we're beholden completely to China. In
yeah,
the beginning of this pandemic, we didn't even have masks to pass around because we couldn't get them, because we stopped making our own shit,
yeah. And
because
the
we
ones that we
decided to
could get,
outsource anything.
the ones
Right
we
now
could get
we
were made in China.
Yeah, and right now we can't. If we wanted to buy a Ford Raptor, a new one, we can't even buy an American truck because we're so dependent on microchips
Yeah,
from China. Now, I mean, that sounds fucking crazy to me, dude. That sounds
yeah.
crazy to me how handcuffed we are by
Unfortunately, that is very true. We're in a bad spot with that to be totally dependent on that country.
right. And and since we are talking about the economy, I mean, what do you suggest right now at this point that Joe Biden do that would fix inflation? I mean, since we're talking about inflation, what do you suggest Joe Biden do?
Yeah, I wouldn't have the slightest idea. I'm no freaking
What
financial expert. I know the one thing. I mean, would it help? You know what? There's still container ships out there waiting in line to get unloaded at all the major ports, at least on the West Coast. I don't know what the East Coast is like, and that's a problem still. That's causing the problem. I mean, the other thing was dollar store. When they went up 25 cents or whatever, and everybody had a heart attack. I mean, it's a freaking quarter. I don't know. Unless I'm being an asshole, but come on, it's a quarter. If it went $1 to $3, and I'm like, okay, now you got go ahead and complain, but it went up a quarter. And
it reminds me of the arguments that some people have when arguing against raising the minimum wage for corporations like McDonald's and paying their workers $15. There was a study that said that the Big Mac would go up like 15 cents
yeah,
or 20 cents, and people were like saying, yeah, and when we're gonna pay for it with the cost of with the cost of food. And it's like, really, man, 15, 20 cents, you wouldn't pay that so that people could live better, could make more money. You're that much of an asshole. Like, you're that much of a tacuache that That's your mentality. Jesus
It's
Christ,
like,
man!
come on, you're buying a quarter pounder and 20-piece nuggets. What do you care about 15 extra cents for?
I don't believe it, man. But when it comes down to inflation, I mean, there's really two arguments. In the '80s, what Ronald Reagan did was he inherited an economy from Jimmy Carter that was battling inflation, right? And there was really two options that's available to us. You can make everybody poor. You can take away assistance so that people are buying less stuff, so that the supply chains are able to recalibrate, or you can give everybody more so that they're able to combat the inflation. So, I mean, here we are. I mean, which route do you go?
Yeah, and you know, at least at the very least, gas prices, like I said, at least in Texas, have come down.
Yeah,
They're
I mean,
well under $3 a gallon. I think they're 270 something here, at least where I'm at.
there's a place here in Westlake. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but it's like 250, 255.
So I mentioned Hillary Clinton popping her name back into the political arena, and that takes us to the topic of the day. And when she ran, and mostly while she was running, when she lost that day, that shocked the world pretty much on both sides of the spectrum. It shocked everybody. But
I don't mean to
the,
interrupt you, but
Mhm.
was it really a shock?
Yes,
I
it
mean,
was, because everybody thought Hillary Clinton had it in a landslide. Some of the comments from the Trump camp were kind of the same. They're like, yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. But,
right,
you know,
but
she
the
was not.
only election that she had ever won up until then was her Senate seat in New York. She
Yeah.
lost to Obama in 2008. She almost lost to Bernie Sanders, but the party had to rig it in her favor. I mean, she was never really that strong of a candidate, you know.
She was a horrible
And
candidate, a horrible candidate.
yeah, just I mean, people weren't excited about Hillary Clinton. They've never been excited about Hillary Clinton. It was more of an entitlement, uh, passing the baton to her out of entitlement.
Yeah, it's something that
And
it,
Donald
it,
Trump
it,
kicked
it
her ass. You know, I mean, he lost the popular vote, but I mean that doesn't really matter. You know,
that moment in time created, I don't know, maybe it was out there before, but this term started coming out, the snowflake, and radical liberals, and the subject of this
the
cup right here.
right,
And all of a sudden you were hearing terms like safe spaces. And I remember
Tri-
hearing that I forgot what university it was. It might have been UCLA. And I remember hearing, oh, they created a safe space. I'm like, what? What are there, like assault or something, or what kind of, like a safe room or something? And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That young people, and by young I mean, I guess early 20s, they're in college, right? Late teens, early 20s, that they're breaking down, just feeling so hurt that they would just break down. And any kind of confrontation, they would just break down and cry. And
well, I think this came into the like national forefront when speakers like Ben Shapiro would show up to colleges and it would get protested. And there's one event where he needed security. I think like $600,000 worth of security
yeah,
just to protect him, right? Because of the liberal progressive.
but at least from what I understand, he paid his own way with that. That was one of the benefits of him not spending a lot of government money on security. He paid his own security people. Um, so the term snowflake came up, and then it just exploded on the scene. And every time, right after that election, you seen the videos, the liberals just screaming and crying and no. and on the floor crying and yelling, and they just couldn't believe it. They were in shock. And what the hell? I want to know what the hell happened in their life, in the country's life, that we created this crowd, if I can call them a crowd.
Hey,
I mean, what
Manny.
the hell happened?
Hey, right. But as fun as that was to watch, the snowflakes, as we call them, crying, and because there was a day where they called it the day of like shouting or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Where they just went outside and they just started yelling at the sky. There was
yes.
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. But wouldn't you rather have that nonsense than what happened on January the 6th? I mean, isn't that the ultimate snowflakery? I mean, really, like you can't really get over the fact that you lost an election, that you're going to be led to attack the Capitol. Like that's the level
you see,
of
that's where the a whole other ball game and a whole disagreement on that as to
but
who
that is
really was.
snowflakery.
Yeah, to an extent, it is. Yes.
No, that's the ultimate snowflake. It's a hurt feelings, and people didn't get their way. They didn't get their guy in office, and they listened to a chronic liar just bullshit them, and look what happened.
Yeah, I'll give you some of that. I'll give you some
Okay,
of
so
that.
so the day of the shouting at the sky or January 6th, which one?
The shouting at the sky was just, come on, man. That was complete mental breakdown.
I mean,
dude, come on. You got. There was this. I think it was MIT. Can't remember. This girl just walking around in this little plaza, just yelling into the cameras and yelling at people walking by, just for no reason. There was no protesting going on. It was just her yelling at the top of her lungs. I should have looked for some of this video footage. And it's just, I mean, it's
right,
serious
it's
mental. Oh man,
it's cringeworthy, dude. I'm with you. But has she been like screaming like at the top of her lungs, like hang Joe Biden, or like hang
let's go, Brandon.
You see where I'm going with this? It's like you cannot mention like the snowflakery of the left without mentioning the dangerous snowflakery of the right.
Yeah, and maybe there's a different term for it. Maybe it is not snowflakes, or maybe it's I don't know. Maybe to a certain extent, I know what you're getting at, and you're not wrong. Have you tried to buy groceries lately? I'm trying to get to some of these. I don't know. I don't see groceries, not where I'm at.
Well, I think Shonda, I think we've established that inflation is pretty bad right now. The question is,
like for groceries.
So there's two questions about inflation, like we talked about, is why is it happening, and how do we fix it? Apparently, there's different opinions on why it's happening. But if you're gonna, like I'm saying, if you're gonna blame our national policy right now on inflation, then you have to also explain the inflation that's happening all around the world in different countries. You can't blame Joe Biden for that. It's the supply chain. It's obviously the supply chain.
Yeah, definitely. That's caused a lot of problems, to say the least. Isabel says never going to be a female president. See, I don't agree with
Let's
that.
hope. I'm just kidding.
Oh, there you go.
Cross your fingers on that one, Isabel.
Yeah, you're getting the bullseyes right now on your forehead. Yeah, you know what? I don't care if it's a female or if it's a trans person. I don't care. I just want somebody who's freaking competent, confident, who can communicate with the people and they know what they're doing.
Let me ask you something, Manny. How did you feel about Build Back Better? About the certain provisions that were in there, like let me be specific. The provisions that, for example, had the government negotiate drug prices, lower those down, or the provisions that included dental and hearing in the Medicare process for older people. The provisions. I mean, provisions that, if when polled individually, are like at 70% bipartisan support. Where do you stand on that?
There was some good out of that. Some, not all good. There's some good out of that. The healthcare for all. I don't know. I'm not. I'm still on the fence with that one. I'm not one way or the other. It's not perfect yet. There are a lot of things that they try to sneak in though, which is what I had a problem with. A lot of these bills that they were passing recently. And I mean, the infrastructure money was freaking ridiculous. And I don't know, you know what? And it might not even be enough. Because there's a lot of infrastructure problems in this nation right now.
Yeah. You see, that's the first infrastructure bill that actually got passed. That was bipartisan. And by bipartisan, you mean Mitt Romney was on board, right?
Yeah.
So what does Ray Lozano say? But taxes were very high under Carter, Reagan had the ability to cut taxes big and give Americans a lot. Taxes are low now. Biden doesn't have the same opportunity Reagan did. Reagan had the ability to cut taxes big and give Americans a lot. I remember a lot of social programs being cut under Reagan. You can fact check me on that, but
no, there were. I remember I was in 8th grade, and they cut the band program. They cut music program for my elementary school, and I was devastated.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just Reagan, man. The Clinton administration cut welfare with their reform. They cut it big time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're talking about, Ray.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to the cancel culture and the actual mentality of, I mean, what happened to our youth? What happened? You know, and I kind of attribute it, I think, back to the remember the participation trophy?
Yeah.
When that whole movement kind of started, at first it was, oh, okay, yeah, that's cute, you know, poor kid, they give him something anyway, but it just took off, and now everybody was expecting something, you know, for nothing practically.
There's a really good book, Manny, and I'm looking for it right now. I read it sometime. I'm blanking, dude, and it's the time, but I'm looking for it, and it talks exactly about when this started.
Yeah, I would like to hear all the opinions on when you think it started, and I obviously couldn't put a year on it or an era, but whenever that era was, when they started talking about participation trophies, and that's, I don't know, it seems like that's when that, for as good as an intention that it was, I think it took a bad turn.
Okay, so have you ever heard of Jonathan Haidt?
Yes, actually.
He's the one that wrote The Coddling of the American Mind.
Hospital administration. About the insensitivity and lack of awareness she and her husband experienced. And the administrative.
That's my Audible now. My bad. Jonathan Haidt. The book is called The Coddling of the American Mind, and it talks exactly about that. And what a lot of his theories are based on is that around the time that social media started, right, was the kind of time where I guess suicide rates among females started to rise. And you're talking the ages started getting younger, you know. So, and it all started around the age. I mean, I'm completely massacring the book right now. I'm sorry, Jonathan, but yeah, they blame it on social media a lot.
Yeah, and that, you know, what that has led to recently with suicides and kids becoming just obliterated by peers and people on social media that they never even met before. What goes on is it's really bad. And this other guy who's
I don't mean to interrupt you. Did somebody just comment that you need a different cohort?
Oh yeah,
I'm telling you, man. Soon as somebody starts saying something contradictory, they want to cancel you, bro. talking about
Jennifer.
snowflakes and talking about cancel culture. I mean, it's happening right here.
Right as we speak, Jennifer, it's cool. Don't freak out just yet. You know what? But that's
stop being a snowflake, Jennifer.
And this is what I want. That's why I asked you on, because I know you and I don't agree on freaking everything at all, and it's good to have a contradictory opinion. And hey, let's hear what he's got to say. He can hear what I got to say.
And you know what the funny thing is, man, is like in the
Jennifer's cool though. She's all right. She's cool.
Okay, I'm gonna give Jennifer a pass this time. So like in the current atmosphere that we have right now politically, man, me saying what I'm saying, they're gonna categorize me as a Democrat, right? That's immediately what they're gonna do. I've never voted Democrat in my life, but you have this Fox News, CNN dynamic in this country, right? Where if somebody doesn't say what you want, then they are comfortable placing you in the other tribe, right? It's this tribal politics bullshit, man. I don't like it, dude. There's some policies that I like that liberals have, and there's a lot of social policies that I like that conservatives have. You know, I would say I'm more liberal on economics, and I'm more conservative on social issues. That's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, see, and the basics of Democrat versus Republican when it comes to social services. On the Democrat side, here's the free stuff. Use whatever you need. It's right here. Where on the other side, it's more like use some of this, but let's try to enhance yourself and get yourself out of this mess, so you don't have to live on this stuff all for a lifetime. And I think if those programs were not available like nonstop forever, year after year after year, we might be in a better place. People might be in a better place.
I mean, well, there was a time where none of those programs were available. I mean, and people weren't in a better place. I mean, what happens when our economy, hits its boom and bust cycle? Because it happens every 10 years. Recessions and depressions happen quite often. Right. The reason why we have the social programs that we do now is because at a time these programs didn't exist. Right. And people were suffering. People do need some sort of a safety net, dude. And we're the richest goddamn country in the world. We have to be able to protect our own people. If shithole countries can get that done, the greatest country in the world can't. Give me a break.
I get that, but to what?
But that's the argument. To what extent?
Really? Is it no limit? It's just
no. Of course, there has to be a limit.
I know, but there isn't right now. There's just people are on this stuff for 10 or 12 years in a row.
On what stuff?
And let's say the welfare, food welfare. It's just a vicious cycle that keeps going year after year after year. And I'm getting $600 in free food. If I work X amount of work with a payroll job, well, then they're going to take away my free food.
I'll tell you what, as soon as we have a conversation about cutting subsidies for the billionaires and corporations, then I'll entertain that conversation.
Yeah, whole other conversation. And we keep getting back into the deep politics of it, but I'm really trying to get into the
snowflakery,
the psychological snowflakery. Was it beneficial? Did it hurt us? Did it hurt society in general to do the participation trophy? You guys know what the participation trophy is? There's a race, and Johnny got fourth place, so he didn't get in the top three. But guess what? They gave him a trophy anyway, just because he participated.
Do you really think that we're in the shit we're in because of participation trophies?
I'm saying, is it possible? To a greater scale, obviously, where everybody feels entitled. Well, at least I was in. I did something. I participated in something. So, give me something, right?
Man.
And generally, that you scale that to jobs, you scale that to modern society.
Yeah.
Now you got people who would rather be on unemployment with the extra $600 that Uncle Sam was given than to go and work for it.
I think we just parent different now, man. Let me tell you a little story. and it's going to deal with the topic that you want to stay on, but just in the difference in how we parent, right? I was born in '85, right? So we're talking this little event happened around '93, right? And I'm sitting in my front porch with my cousin X, right? My cousin. Let's call him Hector,
All right.
with my cousin Hector. And we used to live in these lots, right? Where like the typical like old fashioned Hispanic neighborhood, right? Where there's a house in the back, house in the front, like different families, all related, living tias, primos, everybody, right? And so I had convinced my cousin to steal one of his dad's Playboys, right? And so he didn't want to do it, but I was always the canijo one, right? Like the roterco one, right? So eventually he did it, right? And so it was Friday, it was payday. Um, I could smell the leña in the back, man. My tios and my dad they were out there cooking, right? And it was leg quarters and costillas, right? This was before wings were even a thing. You know what I mean? Leg quarters and costillas.
Yep.
And I'm talking about the costillas, the ones that with the no meat on them, right? The ones that whatever little meat there is, it gets stuck in your teeth, right?
Right.
Um, and they're back there, dude, and it's a different time, man. I could hear La Fiebre in the background playing. You remember La Fiebre?
Not a fan, but I've
You're not
heard
a
of
fan
it.
of La Fiebre?
Yeah.
They're like the
No.
poison of Tejano, bro. Glitter and fucking perms and shit. And as soon as you heard the wah in the back, with the gritos, it was like the siren in the Purge, man. You know what I mean? Like this is not a test. All parenting, has been shut off. And it's like we knew that we had the freedom to do whatever we wanted, man. It was 9:30, 10 o'clock, and we're out there playing around. We're out there in our neighbors' houses, and our parents, I mean, they knew that it wasn't nothing was going to happen, right? There was cohesion in the community, right? If my neighbors saw me acting up, they would whack me, right? And then they would tell my dad about it, and my dad would be like, "Well, thank you," right? We don't have that anymore. We don't have we parent way differently than our parents did. We helicopter the shit out of our parents, right? We feel like it's crazy because this was the early 90s, man, like the height of the fucking crime wave, dude. 93, 94, like this is the height of the crime wave. According to most statistics, dude, we're in a pretty safe time, right? But because of mass media, we're given the impression that it's the worst than it's ever been. That murders and all this crime this the highest that it's ever been. But it's because we're exposed to 24/7 news on the daily, and the news makes its money by just covering nothing but negative shit, right?
So, but are you saying that because of the current, defund the police all over the place, mostly in Democrat cities, that's not there is no crime on the rise and all that crap happening with smash and grabs and all that?
I mean, how many cities are currently defunding the police?
Oh, a lot. I mean,
I
it
mean,
seems
they
like the
defund like so. There's no police force
the,
anymore.
the usual suspects. Well, not there is a police force, but they've cut back. It could be 25% of their police force. I know Chicago did, and
I'm
that
I'm
place
gonna
is a
I'm
mess
I'm
right
gonna
now.
I'm gonna need some statistics to back that up because I
I will dig those up later. That
as
that's no secret though. It's been Lori Lightfoot, mayor of Chicago. That's my city where I came from, where I was born and raised.
there's no police force in Chicago. Is
There's
that what
no
you're telling me?
secret. No, they defunded. They cut funding, and they had to let go of almost a third of their police force. And now they're trying to get them back. And now New York City's got a new mayor, and he's trying to they got rid of the crime. One of their tactical anti-crime groups teams, and now he talked about what it was in his campaign. He's going to bring back the anti-crime unit to which Black Lives Matter came and said, if you do that, we're going to burn the city down. Like, what good is that? So
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
trying to make a difference over there, and I can't believe he's getting resistance on it. But he wants police back.
from what I understand, man, the crime because there is a spike in crime that's happening right now. But a lot of that spike, I mean, from the studies that have been done on it, it's been shown to be exactly from the post-pandemic economy that we're living. If people are living poorer and in a worse economy, it's been proven. I mean, if you are in poverty and you are not living well, you're more likely to commit crime. You're more likely to there's not only more likely to be domestic violence, there's more likely to be grocery theft, things of that nature.
No, sorry, bro. What's happening is that people are not getting prosecuted. People are not getting jailed. People are being released because of no bail situations. And people are just walking. And so people are committing crimes, not worried about being prosecuted because they're not being prosecuted. And they're just walking. I mean, look at all these people that did all these smash and grabs. Well, everywhere. A lot of Apple stores got hit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one, because what you're saying is going to require some evidence, because you can point to one city here or another city here or even a third or a fourth, but to then jump to the conclusion that these 4 or 5 cities are the reason why crime is going up wholesale across the country, I don't think holds water. I don't think it's a good argument.
Well, we can look it up. The numbers are out there. Chicago, Minneapolis, LA, Seattle, New York, huge Democratic cities, partially defunded the police. And I know Chuck put a comment up here in a minute saying I'm lying about the defunding of the police. No, some of them were defunded. They had to cut back on their staff. And now guess what? There's not enough police to go around. Normally in downtown Chicago, you make a phone call, 911, you'd have got a police officer there in, 30 seconds. And now it's taken upwards of 15 minutes. They're just not, they're spread out too thin. Troy, the people who are triggered easily are the ones who are lied to the most, are accepting of it, and the truth makes them angry. Yeah, get that. Police have been demoted to school board meetings where you... Yeah, I mean, it's out there. And I'll dig up everything and get that to you at a later time for sure. It's not... This stuff has been on the news all over the place. At some departments, some cities were trying to wipe out the police department totally. I want to say Portland is one. I know Minneapolis, they were trying to get rid of the police force, and it was voted, thank God, against it. The citizens voted against it in a referendum.
Right. So, I mean, Isabel here makes a good point when she says they are no longer being militarized. That is all. It's like there has to be some kind of a line, right? And the problem with Democrats, dude, is that they are so bad at branding, and they use the worst possible slogans. I mean, defund the police. When I hear a lot of these progressives explain what defund the police means, what they say it means is a situation like there's no reason to send a police officer to a domestic dispute. That should be left to a social worker or somebody that has some kind of knowledge in de-escalation tactics. When you send officers who aren't trained in those issues, sometimes they make matters worse, right? Defund the police when it comes to issues like that. And look, man, I mean, what's the case against that? It's not
You're right.
really defunding the police. It's making it broader, making it more useful.
Well, Chicago defunded the police. Their budget was cut almost by a third. They were legit defunded. And now they're scrambling to try to get everybody back.
Defunded some, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Let's not even talk about just the.
They had to defund, so now you're taking police officers off the beat, and you're sending them either to other programs, or you had to cut back on other programs, and it's just
right. But we're living right now in a very unique time in American history, right? We had a once in 100-year pandemic, right? The economy has gone to shit, right? Inflation is pretty bad. I mean, there are multiple factors as to why crime has gone up. To just say it's because these cities have defunded the police, it just makes no sense. I mean, it needs a broader analysis. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's not hard to find.
I mean, we should even start to think about funding less. I mean, I'm not even going to use the word defund. I might trigger some people. Funding our military less, or finding better uses of that money. Do you agree with that?
I would say there are places in the military that, yeah, monies could be redirected. Perhaps there's too much money going to some places where it's like, really? Like,
we spend more on our military than the next 20 countries, man.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not.
You know, remember Scarface? When him and Manny were arguing about all the security he's got, he goes, I don't care. Makes me sleep good at night. Like, that's kind of how I feel about that.
Listen, bro, if debacles like Afghanistan don't happen, or Iraq,
but that's not because
Syria,
of them having too much money.
If we can avoid debacles like that by spending more money on our military, then I'm right there with you. But there's been no evidence that spending more on our military is,
you could spend 5 times more on the military, and that wouldn't help what happened in Afghanistan.
We were in Afghanistan for 20 years.
I'm talking about when they exited last year. That whole mess, getting people out of there.
But in 2011, our generals admitted that the entire thing had already been a mess.
Should have been out of there a long time ago.
But that's exactly what I mean. The reason why the reason that we're in these places to begin with is because we spend so much on our military. Is we have free reign to do whatever the fuck we want.
And then you look at
country.
And you look at China. Now. You look at China with their military parades, and they're flexing their military muscle all the time. Then you look at Russia with the same.
Let them flex their muscles, man. France does that shit too. Israel does that shit too. France. Let them. What, are we going to go to war with Russia now? China? Nobody's going to go to war with China. Nobody's going to go to war with Russia. They don't want war. Trust me.
Yeah, nobody wants that war. But the spike in crime is by the government. Come on, man. The government is the most corrupt entity in the country. Some crimes are stage crimes. Let's be real. You mean a la Juicy Smollett?
I'm gonna pass on that one next.
Come on, that was a good segue on that. That was good.
No, not on you. I meant on the comment.
Bail reform and software DAs is a huge issue. Bail reform, yeah. Ask California how that's going over there.
So you're just you're just like a lock everybody the fuck up kind of guy, huh?
Well, I mean, you know what? Yes, except for who? Guess who? Dude smoking a joint and he's got one in his pocket. You're gonna lock him up for 3 months? That's absurd.
I mean, our jails are full of those guys, man.
Yeah. You got to empty out from that. That is dumb already. It's like, come on, we're at 2022 already.
Dude, there's a lot of people in jail for nonviolent crimes that have been there for years that shouldn't be there, man.
See, that kind of reform.
While pedophiles are walking free and you see your newspaper and you're like, oh, goddamn, there's another one in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that truck driver's getting 110 years for a freaking accident.
So stupid, man.
That jail reform needs to happen. Kamala, didn't she say she would help in jail reform? And she locked up all the brothers, all the black people?
Yeah, dude. But she's progressive, though. She's a socialist.
Yeah. The biggest issue is hardly branding. Let's see. Hey, Mary. Welcome. How you doing?
No. There's a lot of issues besides branding. Your
guess must be a poor boy feeling sorry for himself. He's got less over. Be nice.
Hold on. Let's explore that a little bit. What do you mean by that, Oscar? I'll wait for your comment. Come on, big boy.
Read an article that Chicago police was not defunded. They got lied to by the GOP. Yeah. Well, I'll see about that. That's something I can get easily. I can just make a few phone calls during the day and I can get that information. I agree with them. Okay. So what do you do to reshuffle the military spending deck? I don't know. I certainly think there are some places in the military that are getting way too much money. Some, I get it, needs to be funded and needs the money, fine. But there are other things where I think, and I couldn't tell you specifically. I don't read through this stuff every day. But like with most government spending, the classic $200 for a hammer, that kind of thing. The money's ridiculously getting wasted somewhere. Needs to be redirected, that's for sure. So what? Okay. Military industrial complex. Okay. Russia and China relations are getting way too close. Yeah. They're best buddies already. Yeah, see? Buddies. Don't spend on the military. Let them flex. Earth. Hitler. 1938. You don't need another Hitler. Less privatized prisons. Less privatized prisons. Yeah, I suppose that's a part of it. I still think there are too many non-violent offenders or criminals that are in there, which there are better ways to deal with them.
But the whole private prisons thing it's in itself is pretty insane, man. Like these prisons get federal subsidies, federal money based on how many people they can fill up in their cells. So then these prisons then lobby local politicians to have several laws on the books that make sure that happens. If that weren't the case, these marijuana laws that are the reason why a lot of these prisons are filled up, cheap petty crimes, they wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Arresting somebody because they got a joint and even an extra one in their pocket, and because he's smoking one, is so freaking ridiculous already. It's not even funny.
Manny, do you smoke weed?
No, sir.
All right, I don't either. So we don't smoke, but we free them.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking legalize it everywhere, not just Colorado, California, and Illinois, and wherever else it is.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I think it's ridiculous. Man, that should have been that should what do they call it? Decriminalized. That should have been decriminalized even when I was a kid. A long time ago. Passed on account, but last year a lot of rioting were setups. That is 100% for sure.
In what sense?
There were a lot of riots. There were buses. I mean, there were buses coming in, dumping people, and then all of a sudden everybody's got pipes or 2x4s and rocks, and shit's getting broken. Things are getting set on fire, and all these buses were from out of town.
So, since you mentioned that, I remember around the times that the riots were happening, there was posts, going all around social media where police officers were dropping off pallets of bricks, right? And people were these videos were being shared, and people were asking, what the fuck are police officers doing laying bricks in a parking lot where these protesters could easily. And there were police officers, right? A lot of people don't understand is sometimes, man, in politics, agent provocateurs. I mean, this is a term that you're familiar with, right?
Yeah.
Where, in order to achieve a certain political end, or what have you, they'll use these types of scenarios to try to discredit certain movements. Right, and these things happen, and this happens all the time. It happened to Martin Luther King, with the FBI. I mean, this is nothing new.
Happened January 6th. Throw in a bunch of Antifa with red hats and blame the Trump supporters for.
You don't believe that?
For causing that? Yes, I do.
You don't believe that, Manny? Antifa with red hats, really?
Dude, there were people. There were police, security, and police. You gotta have seen those videos. There were those barricades, those metal barricades all over the place. Police were moving them and telling the crowds, come on, go and rush the building. Like,
Manny, a lot of these people have already been tried and have already gone to court. And None of them were
Not all
Antifa.
of them.
None of them were Antifa.
Yeah, they were in there. They were in there.
Just because
They were.
they have to be.
Freaking organized it all.
I don't think you believe that,
It was
Manny.
such a ridiculous situation.
I don't think you believe that, Manny. I think you're trolling right now.
Ridiculous. All that footage you see from inside, it was really surreal.
And are you telling me that Trump supporters Republicans are just so above the fray that they're incapable of doing something like that?
I wouldn't go that
Give me
far
a break,
either.
man.
No.
Give me
I'm
a break.
not saying that.
Only the horrible left and only Antifa is capable of doing stuff. Trump supporters, no. No, they're above that kind of behavior. Give me a break.
There were
you don't believe
people
that. You don't believe
yelling.
that.
There were people yelling at the SWAT police who were sitting out there. They're going, "What are you doing? Go in there! They're destroying the building." These were people with MAGA hats and all that stuff, yelling at the police to go in there. What are you waiting for? Why are you standing here? You've seen these videos,
right? Because just like the Black Lives Matter protest, not everybody that's there is a piece of shit.
Like, let me start up Black Lives Matter.
But we can agree on that, right? Not everybody that showed up to these riots just like the same thing on the 6th. Not everybody that showed up to the protest was a piece of shit. But there was a lot of pieces of shit that did show up and did invade the Capitol. And to try to brush them off that they were Antifa and to try to take away all the culpability from Trump is just nonsense, man.
Yeah,
I don't think
Trump
you believe
was
it.
not responsible for that. I don't care what anybody says.
These people would not have been there if it weren't for Trump.
But he didn't say go in there and bust everything up. He
didn't have to say it, man. For 3 months, he had people gotten people drunk on nothing but lies. And if you feel that your democracy is being stolen from you, dude, if I felt like my democracy was being taken from me like that, if I really bought the bullshit, why wouldn't I do that? Of course I would do
March
that.
To the Capitol.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Bust down the building and burn it down.
So it was Antifa that was saying hang Mike Pence, right? Dude, Trump.
There were other players, not just Trump and Antifa. There were other players too.
The entire reason that Trump was there in the first place was to try to put pressure on Mike Pence to do something that constitutionally he cannot do. So, I mean, just right off the bat, he was in the wrong. He was pressuring Mike Pence to go against the Constitution and try to overturn an election, when Mike Pence just has a role that's largely symbolic at that point.
Trump just wanted all that shenanigans exposed. He was not going to overturn anything.
What shenanigans?
A lot of the voting shenanigans that went on, and now they're just all covered up and disappeared and vanished.
No different shenanigans than happened, or no more or less shenanigans that happened in 2016, 2012. I mean, dude, Republicans and even people in Trump's own administration have said it. I mean, God. Even if God came down at this point and said, listen, dude, Trump was full of shit and this entire thing, you guys probably still wouldn't believe God.
Maybe. Yeah.
No, you're right. I'm 100% sure.
Rehabilitate when they're locked up versus creating career criminals while generating profits for private prison companies. Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, absolutely. Rehab. I don't know, start finding people for stuff and make them, any job they ever get, the wage garnishment, because they got to pay back all these fines. That'll hurt people in the pocketbook, make them not want to commit any more crimes. It's just too much people not being prosecuted. Like I said before, people not being prosecuted, being catch and release, so to speak. I mean, murders happening left and right in broad daylight. Nobody's friggin' afraid anymore. Kind of like watching a weird Charles Bronson movie or something.
Charles Bronson, damn, bro.
New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philly, Minnie, Baltimore, Portland, Austin, in addition to Milwaukee, defunded the police just to start. Yeah. I don't know how much they defunded.
So there's no police force right now in Austin?
There is. Just cut back. Didn't defund complete. Didn't remove the police departments. Just cut back.
Well, I mean,
cut back the funding. So instead of 10,000 police officers, they only have 6,000 or 5,000 or 7,000 or whatever. Not all the budget's there to have the full normal force. This is your best, more informed guest ever. Nice to not have a wacko.
Thanks, Chuck.
All righty, Chucky. Yeah, and the Bulls did suck today too, by the way. It was horrible. Horrible.
What?
The Bulls. Chicago Bulls basketball. It was 2 blocks in a row. Antifa. There needs to be a comprehensive reintroduction plan for people leaving prison. Recidivism would yeah, it would, but I mean, you have to go back even before that. You got to really figure out who you're going to prosecute. Do you really want to prosecute? If you're going to prosecute, is the penalty necessarily the best thing to put that dude in jail for 2 years? That's where you got to cut this thing off at. Oscar seems like a nice guy. 80s, yep. If you believe that the left dressed up as Trump supporters to overturn an election they just won, it makes you a special kind of stupid. Yeah,
Let's be nice,
yes,
Mr. Nobody.
I saw that too, man. Yep, it was. The videos are out there. Holy crap, I believe that. Yes, it was a protest gone awry. Yeah, I know somebody died. This woman died. She did.
So look, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Yes, CNN definitely told you there was no evidence. You see, like, that's the typical, like, tribal response to exactly what we're talking about, right? Every single time that I talk to somebody who doesn't like what I have to say about the election fraud, the first thing this is what you call the dumb response, right? The first thing they say is, "You must be watching CNN." Right? It's like, really, guy? Like, that's the best that you can. That's the best that you can come up with. Like, you can't give me an argument. Like, you can't give me evidence. You can't give me a court case. You can't give me an election official. You can't give me anything except you watch CNN. And this is why conversations always go off the rails, because people are so full of shit. And I don't mean to insult you. Let's go back to the 80s. But when all you got is CNN must have be dictating your information, then I don't know what to tell you, man. But if you want to be taken seriously in a conversation, you got to give me something, man. You got to give me some evidence.
Yeah, I'll agree with
just
that.
You can't just say
the CNN
there's fraud because
CNN
says
fraud. So.
Because CNN's whatever.
Have a little one tomorrow. Good night, Shonda. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit. There's clear voting fraud, maybe not at the magnitude of what Trump claimed, but 2020 definitely had more corruption than ever.
Well, all I can tell you is what Trump's election integrity official said. This is Trump's own guy. He said that the 2020 election was the most secure election that we've ever had.
Pretty funny. We read, bro, defund. They just cut police right off the payroll. Yep, and we keep going back to that, and I'll do the research on it because it's pretty not hard to find. It's not easy to miss. I can't believe this young boy, man. What's his name? It just came on your live stream. This is Mr.
Raleigh
want to introduce
Castillo, Hell's Tavern RGV. I hope you subscribe, Oscar. You might learn a thing or two.
Raleigh Castillo.
Lord knows you need it, buddy.
Hell's Tavern. Look up the Hell's Tavern page.
You can find me on Facebook. You can find it on YouTube, and you can find it on Spotify, iTunes. We're all over the place, man.
You've had it on before. Who's your guest? How can I follow him on social media? We just said it. Raleigh Castillo, Hell's Tavern. Look up Hell's Tavern. Can't miss the page. Over 60 plus state and federal court cases, no proof of widespread voter fraud found. Why didn't the Republicans challenge results in the congressional election results and just the presidential? Trump, there was no way, even if God came down, like you said, there was no way that none of this was going to get, it was for sure not going to get overturned. And it was for sure. Okay, so it was for sure that Trump was going to be out no matter what, no matter. It wouldn't matter if there was a fraudulent, if there were a game of dominoes.
There was elections in precincts for Congress where Trump lost and Republican congressmen won. Explain that one. And these same congressmen that won these elections on these same ballots that a lot of people claim were defrauded refused time and time again to mention anything about it because they knew they would then be delegitimizing their own election. on the Republican side. I mean, this entire thing, man.
Yeah, this could go on for hours, if not days.
But it shouldn't. Because there's one side that has the evidence and there's one side that doesn't.
And I said again, it wouldn't matter what. Trump was going to be out no matter what. Not even a miracle from God would have stopped Trump from being in there. He was not going to be voted in no matter what.
That's on Trump.
And George Soros made that comment in 2016. He said there will not be a Trump in 2020. There will not be. He will not be there. And he said that. And I think it was a 60 minutes. I think it was a 60 minutes interview. And he's got all the backing and all the money, and it was just not going to happen, no matter what.
The Koch brothers on the other side have as much money, if not more, than George Soros, and as much influence. Trust me, George Soros ain't pulling the strings, man. There's a lot of billionaires in this country. There's a lot of oligarchs that have a lot of power on the Republican side, more so than on the left side. So,
yeah, but they couldn't pull Trump's strings.
So that argument doesn't wash.
Trump refused to be a puppet. That's the thing. That's the difference right now.
Except to Saudi Arabia. But okay.
Please.
Dude.
Back to the original topic. And I don't know, we digress somewhere. I can't remember what.
but this is fun though, man. Like, I'm having fun.
Okay, I brought it up before. Some of you guys just joining us right now. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. Raul Castillo from Hell's Tavern joining me here. Supposed to have Bam. Bam was going to be with us, and he's crashed out for the night, I'm assuming. Abel had something come up with his family, so he's not able to join us right now anyway. So we're taking on this sucker. And wondering, it's like, what the hell happened to our culture that we raised?
Just say it, man. Just say it.
That we raised a bunch of...
Say it. Say it.
What happened, man? Is it the parents? Did a generation do a shitty job raising their kids? You know what do people say? Did they raise a bunch of pussies?
I think so, man. I think
and
my dad tells me stories about the time that when he was a kid and the way he was raised. And I think about the way I'm raising my boys. And I'm not going to lie, dude. The question does come across my mind. Am I raising them to be weak? But of course not. But I do think about it sometimes because we live way differently than our parents did.
Crime reform is needed. Guy uses a fake $100 bill to buy food for his family versus a corporate businessman embezzling millions and stashing the money in offshore accounts. Guess who's going to jail? Oh, totally. Have you seen the
White collar crime is the only crime
the Panama Papers?
Explain that.
Oh man, that's real good. That's what they're talking about. All this money that's stashed away in overseas accounts.
Oh,
documentary about that investigation. Fascinating, bro. Fascinating stuff. You should check that out. It's called the Panama Papers.
This just came out, no? Maybe like 2-3
recently.
months ago.
Yes,
right?
It was midsummer, I think, or early last year.
Oh, okay.
Fascinating information, and where all these, and the problem in other countries are actually really hardcore.
Was it Mitt Romney? Wasn't Mitt Romney in that too?
There were a lot of people named in
right?
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Check out the Panama Papers, everybody. Crime reform, we need sentencing reform. I agree. There you go. It's the water. That's it. It's the water that the brown Detroit water and the water that California doesn't have. White collar crime versus blue collar crime. Yes, people blame the younger generation, but it was us that is raising them. I know, and that's what we're just talking about. That had to happen somehow, and that, I mean, collectively as a society, did a certain generation fail in or made a huge error in raising these kids.
But the boomers were, I mean, that generation was pretty fucked up, man. If you think about it, the things socially that were and culturally that were happening at that time, you're talking about the 50s and 60s. It was a pretty rough time in this country. You know, when you're talking about, I mean, just the overarching issues that happened in the '60s, civil rights, the '50s, the wars that we were in, Vietnam in the '70s, it was a tough time, man. It was a rough time.
Yeah, it certainly was. Are we better off now than we were then? Somebody asked a question. I was watching a discussion, and somebody asked, "What do you think is the best time of this existence? What decade, what year is the best time to be alive as a human being right now?" And he said, "Well, now, of course." I mean,
I still
generally,
think it's now.
yeah. I mean, everything that's happened in history. You make adjustments, I mean, back then, everybody talks about slavery, but you know what? Back then, slavery was like just something you did. It was there. It's not that they said, "Oh, let's create slaves." People didn't. It was just a fear of a darker skin, and they thought they were animals, but it was a different mindset back then. It was different thinking. It was totally everything different. And then
But
eventually,
it was also an entire economic system too.
yeah,
There was
yeah,
a lot of interests that were tied into it. So that's
yeah.
what made it hard to get rid of, man. People's livelihoods depended on it. People in power.
And the problem would have been if that never stopped and we kept doing it. If there was still slavery now, 20 years ago, well, then we failed as a society.
But there's other kind of slavery, though, financial slavery and things like that. What do you
Yeah.
think about? How do you feel? And I have a feeling we're going to disagree on this a little bit, also, about uh, student loan debt.
Pay up. I mean, it's a loan. Granted, during difficult times, should something be done? Yeah. You know what you do? What's the proper term for it? Defer your payments, defer their payments. Even if it's a ridiculous amount of time, like 5 years, don't worry about it. In 5 years, then you can start paying it again. But I don't think it should be forgiven.
You don't think that the entire system is fucked up? I mean, you don't. Do you see a problem with basically loan sharks going after 17, 18-year-olds who know nothing about the financial system, getting them on a promise that the degree that they're going to have in 4 years is going to be worth something
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
market,
Yep.
right? And then charging ridiculous interest rates,
Yep.
and then preying on, like I said, preying on 17, 18-year-olds who are told day in and day out that they absolutely have to go to college. That if they don't go to college, they're going to be losers. That they're not going to make it. At 17, 18, their brains aren't even fully formed yet, right? And this is the only kind of loan in this country that you can't declare bankruptcy over,
Right.
that you can't negotiate over.
Right.
I mean, something has to be said for that. It's not like we're not, dude. When I was in college, when I was 17, 18, I didn't even know the difference between a Stafford loan, subsidized loan, unsubsidized loan. These terms were foreign to me, right? But I was making decisions on them.
Yeah.
Because I'll worry about it later. Because by then I'll be rich. I'll have my degree. I'll be some big shot, whatever. Things don't go that way,
Right.
I mean,
The whole picture looks nice. Yeah. Here's the money. You go to school. 4 years, maybe 6. You'll graduate 6 months later, and you start paying back the loan. You'll make a lot of money. Life is perfect.
yeah. I remember this maybe like 7, 8 years ago, man. There was a boom in speech pathology jobs, and people were flooding the college market, going to be speech therapists, right? Well, as soon as the boom ended and these jobs were flooded, well, the wages came down, and it became the amount of money that you were paying for the loan and the amount that you were getting paid at these jobs, because there was so much competition. It was impossible, man. So I knew a lady, I knew a chick who was working as a speech pathologist and working as a bartender at night, because she wasn't making enough money. And that was based on a promise that there was this job waiting for you where you would make $60,000-$70,000 a year. Turned out she was making 25, 30, right? So there's a lot of different factors that go in here, man, and the 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 lying and the fooling kids into $100,000-$200,000 worth of loans, I think is criminal, man. And I think there is a case to be made to forgive student loans.
I wouldn't rule it completely out, but just to flat out forgive it all and say, "Yep, don't worry about it. Just erase it." I mean, I'm not a fan of that either.
Just on principle, huh?
It did cost something, and whether or not you followed up with your career after that or tried to do something.
I mean, especially now, man. Imagine getting your degree online and just foregoing the entire college experience because you have to because of COVID, right? And still paying the same amount of money as if you were actually in class and interacting with your professors. That's not to mention all the there was an article in the New York Times recently that Harvard is being sued, Yale is being sued because of the way they doctor the loan process. Everything is done to maximize the amount of profit that these colleges make, right? It's not done for the interest of the student. They'll fuck over as many students as they can to make as much money as possible. It's another business, man. It's another business, but except the lies that are told around it are completely different, and they're told to children, and we're supposed to sit back here and just take it and be like, oh, well, just pay your fucking loans, man. Like you did it, now pay up. I think it needs a little bit more thought than that.
Yep. Are you okay with these loans being forgiven right now?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, given the current what's going on with the country, yes. Okay. Different story. I mean, it's bad enough that it's not a good situation. I mean, if you're not working and you can't pay a penny at all, well, sometimes a blanket, yes, just forgive everything right now. Is it everything? Is it everything? Are they just selecting some people, or how is that working? I don't even know.
We'll call it the Great Reset.
Yeah,
how about that? We'll just start fresh, man.
Start with a blank slate. Oh boy, I've seen your stream before. I've never seen you talk like this before. You were cool, Raleigh. You heard that? You were cool.
I was cool.
Now I can't believe the way you are now. You have changed big time.
Well, thanks for following my work, man.
Racism is alive and well. Ask OM. Yeah, I don't.
Who's OM?
Ofelia Moreno. Another blogger.
Oh.
Una hora con la doña. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know anything about that racism stuff part.
Dude, I have zero interest in that Frank Ofelia Moreno shit, dude. That's irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on at the racism part. I don't think she is, but I don't know. I just haven't heard everything that she said that would make that comment. The interest on those loans is ludicrous.
Yes.
But your reference to social media, I think it gave. I want to go back to a Chuck comment in a minute. I think it gave a voice to everyone without too much fear of retaliation and anonymous security. Led to cancel culture across. Yeah, no, that's the other part of this. I was going to talk about bullying. A lot of online bullying happens. I mean, it's so easy to make you make a profile, fake name. A lot of these profiles, you don't even have to have a name. You can, look at all these comments here. For example, I'm not singling you out, Mr. Nobody, but who knows? If you wanted to change, make a new one tomorrow, you can do that. And it's easy to attack and bully. When you create a fake profile, nobody knows who you are. It's totally anonymous. And that's the other part of what's happened with this snowflake generation. Is this has happened also? Just social media is just a place to, like Twitter. Twitter is a vicious place, and you comment to people that you don't even know, like them, and the same thing with Facebook and stuff. At least Facebook, generally, you have your friends and family on there, but Twitter, nobody knows anybody. and you know, people are insulting each other and talking all kind of smack to each other.
Yeah, you say things on social media, not you personally, but you know, people say things on social media that they would never say to somebody in person, man.
Right,
To
exactly.
something that they'd get clocked, they'll get cold cocked, man, with some of the shit people say to each other, you know. And I think that's the one thing about social media that drives everybody, that takes everybody to level 10, dude, as far as their emotions go, man, is that it's just who you would be as a person if there would be no consequences for your actions. Like it exposes everybody for who they really are, man. Just a bunch of assholes.
Yeah. Or wannabe assholes, guys, like you said.
Yeah.
Some guy's all tough guy online, but if he's out on the street, he's probably a 4'8" guy, weighs 100 pounds that wouldn't talk smack to anybody.
4'8" guy with a Napoleon complex.
There you go. Fully formed brains. There are even teachers that moonlight and have second jobs in retail or private tutoring sessions. You know, right now you got to have a second or third gig for a lot of us, anyway. Not everybody, but some need a second or a third gig to get by.
Yeah, but you know, now that I'm thinking about it, dude, I want to defend the snowflake generation a little bit. Just a little bit, man. Let me play devil's advocate here, see if I can a little bit. Let me make my case, Manny, and let me run it by you and think out loud about it for me real quick. The generation, man, what age level would you classify as the snowflake generation? Are you talking about Gen Xers? Are you talking about the people who were born in the 90s?
I would say that the age range would have to be it would have to be 2021 to about late 20s, in that 20s range.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think it was a Ben Shapiro with the Daily Wire. They were having a debate about why adults were more likely to still be living with their parents at the age of 28, 29, 30, right? And the arguments were basically this. On the one side, it was making the argument that, well, this generation specifically are just a bunch of, lazy, entitled, emotionally weak kids who just can't get their shit together. The other side was making an argument, well, you got to understand that everything has changed under this generation, right? It used to be that if you were a janitor in the 70s, 80s, you could afford to keep a family together with one person working, have a household, and and be able to make ends meet and live a comfortable life like that. We live in a completely different economy today. A lot of people call it the gig economy, but people tend to make less now. Then, given the prices of housing and yada yada yada, right? They're basically making the case that the American dream that we're sold isn't as available to the current generation as it was before. What do you think about that, Manny?
I could see that. I think
Oh, and since we talked about student debt, that was another reason why kids, I say kids, but 20-year-olds, 30 somethings can't afford their own house because they're racked with so much student debt. They can't get the degrees ain't worth shit because they weren't told that a psychology degree or the fucking philosophy degree or one of these degrees wasn't going to make you rich like you
lesbian dance theory. You mean wasn't a big career moneymaker?
I mean, it wasn't a good move, man. It wasn't a booming market for lesbian dancers.
And I remember a bunch of years ago, not that long ago, where it was trending that college students were moving back with parents, and it started to become, that's what's going on right now. It's all right. It's no big deal. And I think again, I kind of see that as kind of a participation trophy in its own right. whatever happened to the old school parenting. You picture a guy, I don't know what, pick any TV drama from the 70s or whatever. I was going to say Archie Bunker, but he's not necessarily all there. But, come on, get a job. What's wrong with you? Go out and do, somebody put like a father figure yelling at the kid, tell him to go get a job, or try to get him a job at his own factory where he works and putting him to work.
All right, but that's also a different time, and we don't have those kind of communities anymore where everybody works at the factory. People get paid well. The 2007 housing crisis, just completely screwed everybody over. It's a different.
There's jobs out there, and now it's
People
unfortunately
aren't growing up with a two parent home anymore.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different factors, man.
Yeah, and now it's become a culture of, well, you can't get a job or whatever, or you got fired. Oh, you know what? The unemployment thing, they're giving extra. You're getting this, you're getting that for unemployment, and you're getting this extra, and just do that instead of, I don't know, take the time and go back to school too. That's a whole other thing people can do, and it's just too much complacency, too much. Here, somebody put a comment up here. I think it's Mr. Nobody. Do you think participation trophies came out of a sense of entitlement by the social classes or demand for equality from minorities? I definitely think it was a social class. I don't think it was a minority thing. At least not where I grew up.
That's a good question.
Yeah, the thing about that, I totally think it was, the yuppie parents, a mom, little Johnny's crying because he made 4th place, and instead of the talk they should be having, you know what, you got to train harder, you got to work hard this summer so that next semester you can go there and you can kick some butt, and we're going to train extra hard so you can make it next time. Instead, it's just, here, it's okay, we'll give you a trophy anyway. At least you participated a little bit, when it should be work harder, train more, practice more. That's what it should be.
In a meritocracy, I would see that point where if I know people, man, who will be the hardest workers in their entire life and never move up the ladder. I know people personally that's happened to. We don't live in a meritocracy, man. We live in a place where there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of compadrismo. There's a lot of
on the same side, I've known people just like you, and I've known them, and they don't want to move up. They've been offered a supervisor spot, but they're like, no, I don't want that. I'm good where I'm at right now. They're good where they are, and they don't want to advance. So,
did you hear the story about Tucker Carlson? He sent Hunter Biden a thank you letter because he had asked Hunter Biden to get Tucker's son into, was it Notre Dame? And I don't know what had happened there, but this is what happens. This is the we don't live in a meritocracy. We live in a place where the rich and powerful who play enemies on the TV screen scratch each other's back behind the scene, get each other's kids into the best colleges, give them the best opportunities that they have. So it's not enough that they're growing up wealthy. Tucker's son is already going to be wealthy, but because he's Tucker's son and because he knows Hunter Biden, now he gets him into the best schools, right? And this happens. You recycle this kind of behavior among the rich over. That's why they stay rich, right? Yeah. We have this perception that people become rich in this country because they're just better than the rest of us, or because their brains are better, they're smarter than the rest of us. The fact of the matter is, most of the wealth, most of the people in the 1% of this country are heirs of that money, or because their dad gave them to them. Right most now, of the people in this country.
Yeah, I'd probably say you're right.
And so, we don't live in a meritocracy, man. So if we did, I would say that's right. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps, work harder, become smarter, learn trades.
Yeah, but whatever era we live in, shouldn't that just be the right way to do it?
Yes, yes, but without addressing the other half of it, it's pointless in a political discussion. In a political discussion, it's pointless. But that's the discussion I'd be having with my son. In a personal discussion, I would that would be my message. In a political discussion, it lets off the bad actors. It lets the bad actors off the hook a little too much.
Leaves the
To,
bad
to,
actors off the hook a little too much.
to only blame the have-nots as opposed to the haves. It lets off the bad actors.
Well, I don't think it's blaming. I mean, okay. I mean, explain this to me. I mean, a simple case of, what it comes down to all the time: sports. Like I said, little Johnny didn't make it. He came up fourth. I mean, there's no other way to. I think it's wrong to just give him a trophy just for no.
Oh yeah, in sports, yes. I mean, in sports, I agree with you because sports is a game purely of talent, right? And unless the entire league that is in cahoots to only do whatever, right? I mean, maybe it's a bad analogy, but in sports, you do have a meritocracy.
Chuck, we'll do that. Didn't know you were on there. Hey, Norma, how are you? Good. Been a long time. Nice to see you. Millennials, been a crazy minute. Yes, it has. Snowflakes are definitely millennials. Yeah, it's it. Yeah, cost of living has gone way up.
What's considered a millennial? Like what age range?
Let's look it up. Millennials, also known as Gen Y, as a demographic cohort. Let's see, where is the age range? Born between 81 and 96.
So I'm a millennial. You better take that back, Nadia. What do you mean some Gen Zers too? So mostly millennials, but some. Come on.
So they're about 26 to 41 right now.
Oh, I've done pretty good for myself. So.
Yeah, that's what that's all about. I wanted to go back to a couple of comments here. Chuck, explain this to me, please. The main cancel culture was Jesus.
I need that one. I need that one explained a little bit.
Yeah, definitely me too. Isabel, I was on food stamps and Section 8 for 8. And Section 8 for 6 years. I was able to earn a bachelor's degree and would encourage anybody who needs temporary assistance to seek it if needed. Yes, I agree.
That's how it should be done. Mm-hmm.
And you got look at that. And you went to school in the meantime and you got yourself out of that. Amen. Happy for you. That's the way it should work. I'm not saying cut them off at a year, but people should be encouraged to try to better themselves. Our kids aren't asking for participation trophies if the parents that are giving to them. Well, that's true. It's not the kid's fault, I'm saying necessarily. At that age, any young age, the kid doesn't know. And the younger the kid is, the more he's gonna be okay with it. I think the older the kid gets, he's gonna be like, I don't want this.
Hey, Manny, let me ask you a question on the topic of cancel culture, because I know this is a new term, cancel culture, but everybody has participated in cancel culture.
Yeah,
in every decade. I remember, but right now it's largely seen as like a leftist, phenomenon, right?
A Hollywood thing,
right?
If you will.
But I've been following politics for a very, very long time, and I remember listening to Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh around circa 2004, 2005, 2006, where this country band known as the Dixie Chicks didn't like that President Bush had taken us into Iraq, right? And Republicans, conservatives on talk radio, had the Dixie Chicks, had everybody burning their records and burning their was there CDs back then?
Yeah,
or their CDs, right? Burning their CDs and their merchandise, and they basically got canceled. Yeah. Right. And after that, they became irrelevant. They literally got canceled. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and this happened on the Republican side, right? Bill Maher makes a joke about Donald Trump looking like an orangutan, and Donald Trump sues him over a joke and wants him off and wants HBO to boot him off the air. This is cancel culture.
Did that
man.
really happen?
Yes, look it up. This is cancel culture, man. Everybody's a pussy when it comes down to taking things personally. The left and the right, dude. It's not a political issue. It's just it's human nature, man. Some people just can't take the heat. Luckily for me and Manny, we're not one of them.
There it is. Trump sues Maher for $5 million for orangutan sex joke. Trump withdraws orangutan lawsuit against comic Bill Maher
because he was looking like an idiot.
So it was a, what do you call it? It was a virtue signaling kind of a thing.
Because he was looking like an idiot. Because in court, I mean,
it was ridiculous, speech, bro. Yeah, I'm glad he threw it. They should have been thrown out before he withdrew it. That's pretty funny. And you know what? And you're right. Generally, the cancel culture is more Hollywood, and what pisses me off is how people bow to this culture. Look at what's that comic? What's that comic? The little guy, the black guy, Kevin Hart.
What happened with Kevin Hart?
He was in a host. I think he was in a host the Oscars. Oh, and then somebody pulled up a tweet from 6 or 8 years ago that he said something which was mildly, now it's called homophobic, I think. But based on that one tweet from 8 or 10 years ago, I mean, they literally forced him to withdraw and not host the friggin' thing anymore.
If I could give any of these guys any advice, if they ever listen to anything I say, never apologize, man.
Yes,
never apologize. Just own it, and you're gonna get kicked off anyway, dog. Even if you apologize, it's not gonna be enough.
And all these complaints against what's her name, the singer, Billie Eilish. Oh, she wore a bikini. Oh, all the shaming on her body. I'm like, what the fuck? You know what? I want to tell everybody, just fuck off. Why can't you tell them? Go
Why? Because she's skinny or what?
And she's not even chunky, but they're saying she's got too much that she shouldn't be flaunting and shouldn't be showing because they're. I'm like, what?
I like to meet these people.
Oh, I would love to meet these people. And then to a different extent, the cancel culture reaches the regular people like us, and it turns into a bullying thing mostly. And there was a time when they came at me when I started my show, when I first started, because of a dispute that I had with somebody else.
Let's name names, man.
And I was so torn up about it, and I was conflicted on what to do. And they wanted me off. They didn't want me to do a live. He wanted me completely off the internet, gone.
He's been a little bitch, what?
And and to this day, I'm not going to say his name, but if I
would say it if I were you, man.
If I do confront him, I will bitch slap him. Right there. I don't care where it's at. There's people who will told me, hey, I'll get you out of jail. I'll pay your bail. If you do that, I'll get your bail. And I'm not doing it for that reason. It's, and it's something that has taught me, like right now, I don't give an F. You don't like me? Okay, fine. Go watch somebody else. And I don't care. I just don't care anymore. You want to say whatever you want to say. You guys might not like what Rowley's got to say with certain things, but I'm still going to have him on all the time. I'm not. You have to, and you got to teach this to your kids, people with kids. You got to teach them not to care about some criticisms they hear, or they're being teased at because their shoes are red or whatever. Tell them, you know what? Who cares? I like my shoes, and they don't have to cry or nothing. You got to teach them to be mentally tougher.
Yeah,
and this is the whole, thick skin. The thin skin generation is going to have a miserable life,
right? And there's something else, dude. That was said beautifully, by the way, man. I almost fucking cried. But if I could add anything else, it would also be, you gotta expose yourself to different arguments.
Yes.
You have to, because we talk a lot of shit about Gen Xers or Gen Millennials or whatever, but most of the people that get triggered when I say something they don't like are the goddamn boomers, man. Are the older people that fancy themselves real tough guys, you know? When I say something like, you know, Florida, for example, voted for Trump, but they also voted to raise the minimum wage to $15, right? It's becoming less and less a political issue and more an economic issue that everybody is starting to agree on, right? A ruby red state like Florida voted to raise the minimum wage to $15. People, older people will hear me say something like that. Oh, you goddamn communist, and yada yada yada. Shut the fuck up,
Yeah.
because the problem here isn't raising the minimum wage, because if you think raising the minimum wage to $15 is communism, then you've been exposed to a steady intellectual diet of bullshit. I would say turn off Fox News, man. Turn off OAN and expose yourself to different arguments. Don't be a little bitch. Expose yourself to different arguments. Get well versed on why the other side thinks the way they do. Get well versed on the arguments from the other side, because if all you know is your arguments, and if all you're searching for is validation in your arguments, and hearing what you already want to hear, and hearing those facts and yada yada packaged in a really nice way for you, then you're not really adding anything to the conversation.
Yep, that's a whole other conversation, by the way. The minimum wage. Will it help
Excuse my language, man, but it's 12 o'clock.
Yeah, what are you trying to say? Past your bedtime?
What I'm trying to say is, man, at these hours, the demons come out. You know what I mean?
That's all right. I know.
What's that saying? Nothing good ever happens after.
Nothing good happens after midnight.
That's right.
And it's true though. But yeah, you know what? The minimum wage. You're right. It was not going to raise up a Big Mac to $1 higher. It was not going to do that. What it was going to do is, well, you're only getting 12 hours a week, so you're only going to get 12 hours a week. You're not going to get any overtime or any of that. That's what's going to happen with those $15 an hour. If it's a broad stroke out to everybody, it'll hurt some. It won't hurt others. It's going to, they'll get around it by limiting the hours that people work.
In some cases,
they'll put a stranglehold on. Only 12 or 16 hours or whatever it is. But that's what's going to happen with that. I don't think the McJob, and I'm not making fun of it. I just don't think the McJob was originally. It was never intended to be a long-term, like a career job. I do know people who've stuck with it since high school, and now they own their own franchise now. That's all.
Those people God damn.
Yeah, well, from high school, right? Yeah, Juan Pina from Chicago started there. We were sophomores in high school. Dude he's got his own now.
Interesting.
And that's awesome. That's the way to do it. I've already okay. So we're talking about why people use aliases. We touched on that a little bit. Hiding behind these profiles, and I have a lot of people that are BISD employees that they create all these profiles because they fear retaliation from the school district. They can't speak freely on certain issues and certain things, or gripe and complain about things, legitimate things too, not just that they're bitching. But if they come out with their real name, they'll get retaliated against. It's happened. Miss Nobody. I've already encountered retaliation by my employer when I posted under my true identity, under the guise of professional ethics as an educator. Yeah, and unfortunately, that does happen. Life is good. Join the military. I did my 20 years. Do something good for your country. I should have done that. My mom didn't want me to when I was a kid, so I didn't. But I think.
Thank you for your service, Oscar.
Yes, absolutely. Bro, my kid is 22. She got to hang out with me till she's settled. I want to have my kid to be able to get the place and things that she deserves. She worked hard for her degree. I'm here for her. Nothing wrong with that at all whatsoever. I think we were talking about more about those kids that end up being more like moochers and they don't want to leave because they're comfortable in the basement on the sofa. Give them a little motivation to get out and get up and do things. Are Karens considered snowflakes? Taking offense to the minor of things. Are Karens considered snowflakes? I think they can be. I don't think they're automatically considered snowflakes.
I mean, have we defined what a snowflake is? I mean, we've had this entire 2-hour conversation. We haven't even defined the term, man.
You know, it never even occurred to me to look it up. Who is a snowflake?
Who is considered a snowflake? What action?
According to the Urban Dictionary, a snowflake is a very sensitive person.
Oh, shit, everybody's a snowflake, man.
Someone who is easily hurt or offended by the statements or actions of others.
That's a pretty broad definition, man.
According to Wikipedia,
the road is wide with that one.
Snowflake is a 2010s derogatory slang term for a person implying that they have an inflated sense of uniqueness, an unwarranted sense of entitlement, or are overly emotional, easily offended, and unable to deal with opposing opinions. Common usages include the term special snowflake, generation snowflake,
I've heard that shit, yeah.
And snowflake as a politicized insult. In the past, it had rather different meaning in reference to white people. See, that was a good definition right there. Somebody that implying that they have an inflated sense of uniqueness, unwarranted sense of entitlement, and overly emotional, easily offended. Yeah. So that's what a snowflake is.
Okay, so we got our definition.
Well, not all Karens are snowflakes. By the way,
some Karens just mean business.
And I put this question to you. I don't know if you've gotten into this at all. What do you think the male name is for a Karen?
I haven't even thought about that one, man.
I almost think it's official. We've narrowed it down to Terry. I'm going with Terry. That's what I'm sticking with. Terry. In comparison, 80s Family Ties versus 2009 Brothers movie. Brothers movie?
That's the one with Mark Wahlberg.
Step Brothers?
No, Brothers.
Oh, Brothers.
With Mark Wahlberg.
I don't think I've seen that.
I saw it when it came out.
Toby Maguire.
Man, on a similar note, I want to know what you think about laborers negotiating within the free market to form unions. In other words, not asking the government for a raise, but instead coming together within the free market and negotiating for
going union. You know, I don't know what unions are like now.
I think conservatives should jump on that bandwagon, man. I mean, within the free market, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Liberal or socialistic or communist about it. It's happening within the free market.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything communist about it at all. I think there used to be a time when a union was a very strong group, a union to belong to, when it actually meant something.
Yeah. Before Republicans gutted them?
Before a lot of things happened. And I think
with unions...
Yeah, like when he fired the air traffic controllers.
The air traffic controllers.
Yeah, they went on strike. They all went on strike. And he said, get back to work. And he said, nope. Fire them all. It was quite a thing to see.
I bet the corporations loved that. They said, we got somebody in the White House that's gonna bend over backwards for us.
Yeah, unions, I don't know. Everybody thinks of well, not everybody. I guess the older generation thinks of unions back, the Jimmy Hoffa days, and the Workers United Auto Workers Union and the plumbing unions, and I know they're still out there. But like the airlines, some of these regional airlines started joining this union, and just, I don't know. I see it as very weak. I don't see it's worth the money that the dues you got to pay.
Yeah.
Even now with some of these school districts, there's some school districts who have, well, unions. There's one here in Brownsville, AOBE, and I get messages every single freaking week. They're leaving it or they left it. They didn't do anything. They're not behind the teachers. They're behind the administrators mostly. I mean, there's no perfect union. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I was supposed to get a call back from them, and I never did. I wanted to discuss that. Imagine that. But
yeah, I think private unions are overall a public good. I think if our goal as a society is to take care of our people, then you have to take care of them where their most basic integrity lies, and that's with their job, right? Everybody's integrity lies with what they do, right? Whether it's flipping burgers, whether it's folding clothes at Walmart or at Hollister, whatever, man. Some people say this should be a temporary job. To some it is, to others it isn't, right? But that job should always it should always fulfill some kind of a need for you, right? And I think that's where we begin, right? With good paying jobs that can take care of people, even at the beginner stages, right? And as you know, there's more and more people are ending up with careers at places like McDonald's. If you go in there, man, you see a lot of young kids, but you also see a lot of older people.
yeah,
That's the time we're living in, man. Walmart, dude, you see a lot of young kids, but I see a lot of old people too.
Yep.
Sam's Club, you said I see a lot of young kids that may be there a couple months, a year, and then they'll go to something better. But I also see a lot of people that settle there,
Yep.
and to be okay with these corporations making the billions that they do and paying their workers scraps, dude. We cannot hold a society together where that's going to be a thing for much longer. Dude, the great resignation that we're seeing right now all across the country, where people are just refusing to go back to shitty wage work during a pandemic, and people are negotiating their salaries. That comes from a place. I mean, the pandemic, dude, it woke a lot of people up to how shitty they were being treated, and to things that they shouldn't just sit down and take anymore, and I hope this ends with something good and a level of wages that can be enough to fight the inflation that's going on right now.
Yeah, I think this pandemic definitely scared the crap out of people where they don't want to be at work around people. That's the other part of that. People not wanting to be back in the workforce.
Yeah,
And,
I'm one of these. I never really ask people if they're vaccinated or not. For some reason it's a touchy subject, but I consider myself one of these
and it shouldn't be a touchy subject. It's just a fucking question.
No, right?
Hey, you vaccinated? I'm just asking. I don't care if you are or not. I'm just asking.
I mean, I'm vaccinated against all kinds of shit. I was mandated to if I wanted to be in the public schools.
Right.
If not, I couldn't go to public schools. Right. But I'm at this point, man, in the pandemic, I'm what you would call vaccinated and done. I haven't worn a mask in probably over 5-6 months. If I'm told to wear a mask, I'm not going to do it. I did what I was supposed to do. Whether the vaccine's going to help me out in the long run or not is irrelevant.
Are you telling me that are you telling me you're a mask hole?
Define that. And maybe
a mask hole is somebody who's going to criticize somebody because they wear their mask.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
And
or if they don't,
and refuses to wear their mask when they're asked to, or I say don't be a mask hole. And I don't wear my mask either. I don't. I walk into Walmart unless if there's somebody next to me coughing or sneezing, guess what? I'm walking the other way real quick, and
Right, but that's just self-preservation, earlier this week, there's this little restaurant on my route. I'm not going to name them or whatever, right? But I got down to eat. Clearly saw the sign, mask required to enter, right? But I mean, maybe I'm a mask hole, you know. But I went in there, I sat down, and as I'm sitting down, right before I ordered, the lady comes up to me and tells me that I have to put on my mask, right? So I'm sitting there at the same table where in about 10 minutes I'm going to take my mask off to eat my food and expose everybody to what I possibly may have. I mean, some of these things, man, there's a reason why people are saying this makes no fucking sense. I'm tuning out. Um, I'm done. You know, I'm one of those people, dude. I got vaccinated. I'm done. I did what I was supposed to do. I did it to protect my family, everybody that I love. I wasn't scared of the jab. You know, I wasn't. I knew I was getting chipped. You know, but I did it anyway.
That's got to be one of the biggest contradictions. One of the biggest demanding you wear a mask to walk into the restaurant when you're going to take it off 6 feet away.
I just told her, I go, man,
so ridiculous.
I go, man, like I respect your rules, but I'll eat somewhere else. And that was that. I walked out and I went somewhere else, you know. But I mean,
that's good.
They're allowed to do that, right? They're allowed to do that, and I'm allowed to take my business elsewhere, right? I didn't take it personally, you know. They have their rules. I think they're stupid, especially in restaurants. I don't think it makes any sense, right? But I also understand, as a restaurant owner, you want people to patronize your business, you know, and you want them to feel safe, even if it's the theatrics of, you know, everybody wear your mask, even if it makes no sense because you're going to take it off when you eat. It's the feeling of safety, right? And it's important in a restaurant, right? And well, I mean,
the feeling of safety. Dude, when I used to travel a lot, I had a United Airlines club membership, and in between flights, I'd go, you have your drink and your snack, and it got to a point where they would tell you to keep your mask on your face. You can take it off to put food in your mouth, but then put it back on while you're chewing. I'm like, man, really? And they'd have people walking around looking at everybody to make sure it had their friggin' masks on. It was so annoying. Like, this insanity's got to stop, like, fast, because I think, you know, the one place where there has not been, what do you call that when there's a super spreader event or whatever? Airplanes.
Oh yeah,
millions of people flying every freaking day. Has there been 300 people were infected on that flight to New York? No, it hasn't at all.
Well, I mean, the CEOs, the CEOs, I think, recently testified on Capitol Hill, and they were able to prove that the air inside the airplane is safer because it's constantly filtered, right? That it's safer than it is even in inside grocery stores. I mean, grocery stores. I mean, you want to talk about another contradiction, right? It's inside. It's safer than most places, you know. So
yeah, and that's one thing I can tell you about. There are airlines. Airplanes use HEPA filters. It recycles the air, but guess what?
Oh, you know, I mean, you worked in the airline industry.
Yeah, the airplane you want to ride in, which are regional airline, they're 50-seat airplanes. Specifically the Canada Air, they're called the CRJ. Those don't recycle the air. Those grab fresh air from every single flight when it's up in the air. There is no recycle system.
Right.
Fresh air comes in, and the exhaust, the old air goes out.
Pushes it out.
And that's ideal, but that's old technology. Those are planes that are 25 years old already.
Right.
But now, even the modern ones, they got the HEPA filters, and it's cleaning the air. And people take them off to eat. Some fall off when they're sleeping or watching a movie. And, there's been no super spreader event on the airlines. There's been no super spreader event at baseball games, basketball games, football games, hockey games. Why is it that it's only going to happen, in certain locations or certain activities or whatever?
Only at Trump rallies.
Oh, at Trump rallies, right? Yeah. And then look at Joe. It sickens me to watch people on TV interviewing each other and they're sitting, 12 feet apart.
That's not theatrics, man.
Oh my goodness, that's so. And the other one that gets me is taking photographs. Everybody's with their mask on. I'm like, take your freaking mask off for 3 seconds while they take a picture, and then put your mask back on. But take your mask off.
Makes no sense, huh? What the fuck are you taking a photo for? We gotta be like, who was that again?
Exactly, right? And then you got the dude driving in his car with his mask on. He's alone in the car.
I just saw that today, actually. I mean, there's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense, man.
If you want to wear, like I always say this, don't be a mask hole. If you want to wear it, wear it. I don't care. If you don't want to wear it, that's fine too. But if you're going to wear it, don't ridicule the guy who doesn't wear it. And if you don't want to wear it, don't ridicule the guy that is wearing it. Just whatever. And if you don't want to visit that business because they ask you to put your mask on, well, then go somewhere else. Or go at 6 a.m. shopping or whatever you want to do. Yeah, Raleigh, come on. I'm 45. Don't go there, bro. You're a good guy. Oh, what'd you say against her?
What did I say to offend Nadia? My old friend.
Something that had to do with working from home. I'll tell you that much. R.A.P. Rush. Yep. Rush. Love him or hate him. He was a freaking pioneer. Kevin Hart. Yep. Okay, we're real behind on these. Life is short to be sorry. Wouldn't the daughters of the democracy be considered cancel culture when they promoted the lost cause and white supremacy during the 1920s, indoctrinating a whole generation, erasing history? Who Manny Z? Hey, look who's there. Man. Yeah, it was me, X. He wants me completely off social media. I know, right? There's this whole thing. I don't know. There's a whole. Some people want you to pick sides, right? Either pick that side or pick one side or the other. And I'm just, I've watched both, and one is definitely more entertaining than the other, and everybody is going to know who I'm talking about.
And I don't know what the fuck's going on right now.
I'm going to stay like Switzerland. I'm neutral, truly neutral. You got a show, pick your side or make your stance, and you stick with it. You don't have to bow one way or the other. Ophelia.
What sides are we talking about?
Yeah, the Ophelia versus Frank Marr.
Oh, I don't care about any of that shit.
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, people watch it. I respect it because the viewers are there for them. So, I mean, more power to them. And people watch, and people like that kind of stuff. And hey, fuck it. And cherry on the cake, you get to make money while you're doing it. And you actually make a living off of it. Guess what? That's your job, right? That's a legit job. If you can do it and earn money from it and pay bills from it.
I was going to ask you something that we were just talking about. Was it about vaccines? It completely slipped my mind. I asked you if you were vaccinated, right?
No, but
no. Now I remember. Have you seen the shit that's happening right now between Trump and Ron DeSantis?
Actually not. I haven't watched the news. I got tired of watching the news.
Okay, so
it's been a couple of weeks.
Okay, so I actually find this kind of interesting, man, because you've seen Trump recently. He was on with Candace Owens, and he was on some episode with I think OAN, but they're trying to get him to denounce the vaccine, right? They're trying to get him to denounce the vaccine, and for the first time in a while that I've seen Trump push the vaccine, saying that he got boosted, that he vaccinated, that everybody should do it. Yeah. And a week prior, Ron DeSantis had gotten asked if he had gotten the vaccine, and he was like, your only takeaway from his answer was, well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, Yeah. And then Trump comes out and says, I'm not like these gutless Republican politicians who can't tell you whether they got the vaccine. I got it and I'm boosted, and you know what? I feel great, no side effects, And right away, man, like the guys on Twitter, dude, the conservative side were saying, dude, leave it to Trump to attack the only guy that might actually help the Republican Party in his absence. You know what I mean?
That is funny.
Dude, that's the most Trumpian shit ever, dude. Like
That's hilarious.
Like the dude, we talk about self-preservation, man. Like the dude will attack anybody. The dude will attack anybody if it threatens his status as the kingmaker in the party.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious. Isabel says, "What about when a 65-year-old bullies children because they're black? When did that happen? Who did that?
65.
Obviously, that's not right." Oops. I always tell my 19-year-old and remind her to be a chingona and self-sufficient and to be confident of herself and that she can't please everyone.
That's the way to do it.
That's what you got to do. And these are basic things. Like I said, common sense things. Common sense isn't so common anymore. We've been saying that for a year. What happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's from a different generation, my friend. Because the kid is black. Those are my words, and they still don't. I don't know what's going on with this racism thing that they're talking about. I mean, I saw one video reporting on it, but I don't know.
That's why I like Matt. He listens to my nonsense. It doesn't criticize me. He listens to the right side. I like Chuck.
Chuck's a good guy. Chuck, you're all right, man. Like I don't know. I don't want to get into those details. That's a derogatory term for someone else. I'll tell you.
I feel like I'm left out of the loop with this shit.
Living in this world, you have to defend yourself. You have to. It is Mexican. I tell my kid, you have to be well versed. And even if you're not well versed,
in the Bible or what?
Just
are you a?
No, I think in life.
Are you a God-fearing man, Manny?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're
yes, but I have questions. I always have questions. I'm not going to say I'm in 100%.
What are your questions?
I'm just questions. The whole just a lot of questions, a lot of things that happened. Which are very fairy tale-ish or stories. They could just be kid stories. Were they actual? Do they claim to be real miracles and that kind of thing?
Like the burning bush or what?
Like the talking snake, the burning bush
snake episode. I always freak out with people that like criticize evolution and they're like, "You really believe we came from apes?" I'm like, "Dude, you believe in talking snakes, man? Like, you shouldn't throw stones from a glass house, though."
Right. Yeah, it's I mean, there's and it's not wrong to question things. And have you seen the Bill Maher documentary, Religulous?
I haven't.
Yeah, you should. It's he brings up a lot of questions, and that's kind of what sparked my own questions
and curiosity. But like Bill Maher comes at it from like an angle of like obvious vitriol, right? Like he's out to embarrass, he's out to make him look like idiots, yada yada yada, right? But there's actual really good debates online between atheists and believers. I mean, like somebody like Christopher Hitchens, who's an atheist, and on the right side, you'll have somebody like, William Lane Craig or Dr. Lennox.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good debates that really get into the meat and bones of the issue, man.
And in that documentary, he gets into quite a few of them with all religions, not just one. He has Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Judaism. I mean, he goes everywhere and he asks. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good doc. We'll totally agree that baby boomers are some of the biggest snowflakes. It's not limited to one generation. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's limited to a generation for sure. I think anybody can be thin-skinned, and I just don't know. I don't know. I blame the parents. We talked about parents earlier.
There was a generation that didn't, were too offended by somebody with a different color sitting right next to him at a restaurant. So,
let's see. Yes, thank you for service out here. I'm going to say until I see what Manny's going to say about this. Yeah, I just I don't need none of that on here. Take it to a different program or offline
only
or
gonna
something.
stay until I see what Manny's gonna say about I am disrespecting.
I don't know those things that were said.
Sorry,
I don't
man.
think they're
No
true if
censorship
if
here.
you're insinuating what
Wait
you're
a minute.
saying.
This is getting interesting. What's going on?
Yeah, there's I'm not sure. There's something about racism, and it's I don't know the whole story behind it. That's why I don't want to get into it. I would not want to think that some of these people are racist. I don't think so. So I don't know. I'd have to see. That's a whole other program, bro. That's a whole other 4 hours. It's a whole different 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours I
I
don't
think-
got, man. The
I
bar's
think
about to close
Snowflake-
it. The bar's about to close in an hour and a half, man.
Verbiage not certain. Not for okay. Yes, exactly. Stay for the whole show. By the way, we need unions. If it's a good union and legit, and it's going to do something for the employee, yeah, I'm totally okay with that. If they're just going to collect dues and not do anything, that's where I have a problem. We live in Houston. Every day is having to defend her education and what she is capable of doing. Defend it from who, though? Defend it from what? That's what I want to know. What is she having to defend? Let's see. Nadia, Rania's in. Okay, yes. I invite her. Hey, everybody's welcome here. I didn't invite her, but everybody's welcome here. I stopped by and watch her show. Because I mentioned, okay. Why'd you mention that? I don't do with the alrighty. Back and forth. And I know I'm not going to surprise you, but I'm pro-union. I knew that already, Chuck. McDonald's equips the youth with self-discipline and leadership skills. Yeah, it's a good entry level. It's an entry first job ever kind of place. They give you the training, the hours you got to work. It's a good starter job. You know what I mean? Do you want to flip burger? I mean, you know what? People need burgers. People need to eat at McDonald's. They need people to make the food and to serve it and all that stuff.
Dude, I started a plant-based diet earlier this week. I'm not gonna lie, I could use a burger right now. There's actually some meats that not meats, but they're like plant-based meats that aren't too far off, man. They got the surface. They got the surface right. They got the feeling right. It feels like meat. After that, it's all on how you spice it up, man. It's all on how you spice it up. Then you put cheese on it, and then you load it with whatever you want to load it. And sometimes you can't even tell the difference.
Just mask it with all the other condiments and everything. Drown it in ketchup and mustard.
And it ain't that bad, man. It ain't that bad.
Have you had that Burger King burger? What's it called? The
Impossible Burger?
Yeah.
I was actually going to try it today, but I opted for something else.
A lot of the bad stuff from a burger is usually the condiments. The calories are in the cheese and the mayonnaise.
Oh yeah, and the bread.
Stuff like the bread, yeah. And I was in a taxi cab, Chicago, and the cab driver, he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I go? I need to grab dinner bad." And like, "Yeah, go ahead." We went to the drive-thru. Went to Burger King. He ordered a Whopper without the meat. He was Hindu. I'm like, a Whopper without the meat? He goes, yeah, it tastes just like. He goes, I don't know what the meat tastes like, but it's a Whopper is good. Like, alrighty.
I've seen that before.
Chick-fil-A pays $15 an hour. Do they really?
I don't know.
Let's see.
Yeah, but they got them working their asses off, though, man. Those fake smiles and those sweet nothings that they whisper into your ear at the drive-thru.
I can't move my comments.
My pleasure.
My comments are frozen, so we're going to be stuck with the Chick-fil-A comment here on the screen.
All right,
anyway, we're probably good to wrap it up.
You want to wrap
a couple hours.
I was about to say.
Yep. So, did we ever figure out? I was going to give you a little test here, but it's my mouse. That's what the problem is. It's the mouse. So I got to go to the pad here instead. Not vaccinated. I got the Pfizer, by the way. Is that what you got? What did you get?
I'm not being mandated to. I got the J&J one.
No issues. No
I
issues
just
on either one.
nothing. I just want no. It's only one shot. The
Oh,
J&J
okay,
was
okay.
only one shot. I only wanted to go once.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it over with, man.
Yeah, I did
And
the part 1 and the part 2, but I'm not getting a fucking booster. I'm
I
not.
get a booster. I think at this point, man,
I don't know, man.
it seems like we're all gonna get it regardless.
I got it for other people. I got vaxxed because I was working at the airline, because my sister is a cancer survivor.
So
That's why I got it.
So you did it for
right?
other people.
Yeah.
I did it for other people too.
But if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, and some of the programs I've done and the discussions on it and what's in the vaccine, yeah, I don't know that I would. I'd continue with washing my hands.
What's in the vaccine?
Well, that's a big mystery.
It's not a mystery.
There's some basic stuff, and then there's some stuff that we don't know what's in there. A lot of metal, too much metal, they're saying.
I've seen a lot of that kind of shit debunked though.
I haven't.
There was this crazy person who was like talking about there's this ingredient called like luciferase or some shit in the I mean, it was some crazy Christian right-wing fanatic, who like saw this pastor who was watching too much Alex Jones or something, right? And they pointed out this ingredient, right? That an easy fact check, an easy search would let you know that this ingredient, was not in the vaccine, right? But that's the way these kind of things get pushed. Like I don't know what ingredients you're talking about. Well, what I do know is that across the world, man, millions and millions, like hundreds of millions of people have already gotten the vaccine, and it's it appears to be pretty safe. In this country, 85% of adults have gotten the vaccine, Republicans and Democrats. So the loud minority that you hear, like, I'm not going to get the vaccine, those are the loud minority. But 85%,
those are the domestic terrorists.
yeah, they need to get shipped to Guantanamo. But 85% of adults in this country have already been vaccinated, Republican and Democrat. So the people you see on social,
I didn't think it was that high.
85%, man. So you can fact check me here live. And so the loud people that you hear on social media that they're definitely not going to get, they're in the minority. 85%. That number goes down, I think, as the younger that you go.
Let's see how many people are vaccinated, and the number is 62.8. This is according to, let's see, Google, but where do they get their information?
Remember, I said 85% of adults are vaccinated.
California, Texas, United States, total doses given 524 million. People fully vaccinated, which is 207 million out of a population of 330, I think we're at, roughly.
So here we got 85% of adults got at least one dose, over 50% fully vaccinated.
Then it breaks it down here by state, how many percentage. I don't know. It's you get the people that are going to say, well, I get vaxxed, why do I still got to keep wearing a mask, or why do I got to keep getting vaccinations? And it doesn't work that way. The vaccine is mostly so you don't get severely sick.
Right.
It's not to repel, COVID necessarily.
But we originally thought that that's what it was for the first variants, right?
Yeah,
so it was doing a good job with the first variants. Then the disease started evolving, and then it's a new virus.
It's not a good time to eat out, though. Take it to go. You can't. I don't know if I want to eat there. I want to eat there. I'm not. And I said this before. I don't know if I told you already, or if you remember this. And this is what I'm living by right now. remember when Trump got COVID
Yeah.
and he got all this treatment, and the first thing he said, the second or third day he was out, he made a statement. And the first thing he said was, "Don't let this thing control your life." And man, I've never forgotten those words. And
Give you chills or what? Give it tingle up your leg?
I do, man. It gave me a warm fuzzy just thinking about that. And that's how you got to live. Don't be afraid of it. Live your life. Just be common sense.
But it's easy to say that when you got every resource we got every resource at your disposal, and when you need people to get their asses out there and work because their economy depends on it.
And then you get into a discussion of, oh man, this is, and we're trying to cut it here, but we're going to get into a whole other freaking hour discussion about the vaccine and healthcare workers now, and firing them, and now the people are bringing them back. Even if you got COVID, even if you're not vaccinated, you can come back to work now. Because, I mean, how do you handle sick people when you fired half your staff? But we'll leave that for another. Let's give me through some of these.
The last thing I think I'm going to say about that is I remember working at Burlington Coat Factory when I was in college. And I remember the moment that I realized that my manager was as dumb as they come, right? And that he had no idea what he was doing. And how he got in that position was only because he knew somebody who knew somebody. When you think about it, bro, human beings across the spectrum, we think that the people in power know something that we don't, or that have some kind of knowledge that's hidden to the rest of us. Man, the way this pandemic has been handled, across the states, local, state, federal, year after year, tells us that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, and I've discussed this before. The CDC and the government telling you, yes, be careful with this, be careful with that. That used to be a place you used to look to and go, yep, that's, I trust that. But now, with Fauci, the flip-flopping that goes on there, and now it's like, you got to do your own research. I mean, really, seriously, do your own research and decide for yourself. I'm a big believer in, do your research and do what's best for your family. If you want to get vaccinated, then go ahead and do it.
But do your research the right way. Don't
watch Fox News and CNN
don't look for things that are going to validate your opinion. Or your pre-existing biases. Challenge yourself. Challenge your opinions a little bit. You may be surprised. And you know what? And I'm going to say one last thing. As fucked up as the CDC is, and as many times as they've gotten it wrong, I would still trust the CDC over fucking Cuco, my next door neighbor, who's a trailero, who thinks, that the New World Order is gonna using COVID to be like yada yada yada. I'm trusting the CDC over that guy any day of the week.
I mean, I would listen to the CDC over Mike Dio Chewy, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I get that, and I get that. But seriously, people, do your research, man. I mean, do your friggin' research and look it up for yourself. Talk to your doctors, and just keep looking and just decide what's best for you and your family. I'm big on choice. So this little girl, I had her on a few weeks ago, Fiona Lachelle's. She got suspended for 38 days. 8 years old. They suspended her for 38 days.
So stupid.
Every day because she didn't want to wear her mask. It's filthy and it's dirty. So I had her on, and you know what? I don't want the school boards making the health decisions. That's something that should be made. Decisions made by your parent, not by. I don't want the teacher doing it for me. We got a volcano that just went up near Fiji. Tsunami warning. I'm going to look into that as soon as we get off the air here. Buddy, if you got to go, man, feel free to bow out. Huh?
Tsunami warning for who?
Yeah, let me see. I got it pulled up right here. A huge volcano just occurred near Tonga. For those of you that don't know where Tonga is, it's in the southwest Pacific Ocean, far east from Australia. The eruption was so violent that it pushed a shockwave across the ocean and triggered a tsunami that hit several islands. A tsunami is possible for the American Samoa Islands. This is just an unbelievable satellite image. Holy crap, there's a picture. I posted it just now on my page. Yikes, that can't be good.
Jeez.
There's quite a few islanders that I know. I'm going to give them a ring tonight, even though it's late. Brother, if you got to bow out, feel free. I'm just going to wrap up here. Thanks for coming on, man. We got to do this again.
It was my pleasure, brother.
Everybody, Raleigh Castillo, RC3,
at our page, Hell's Tavern, RGV, Facebook, like it. Hell's Tavern RGV, YouTube. Find us on Spotify, on iTunes, and on every other major platform. We are there. We're having cool conversations every fucking week with people like Manny. We're having disagreements, we're having arguments, and like I said earlier, my mission is to deconvert people from bullshit philosophies and bullshit ideas that they get from bullshit news stations. And if you
have you already announced who your guest was? I won't say it if you don't want to. I'm not going to say it. But have you already announced who that guest is of yours in February?
Not yet. I'm working on a whole promo for that one. Well, it should be fun. Blast from the past.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
All right, Manny. Well,
okay,
thanks
buddy.
for having me on, man. It was a pleasure, dude. I always like talking to you, dude. You always come out about your positions real well thought out, and it's always a pleasure, brother.
Good. I'm glad you were here. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch again. Good night, Mr. Raleigh.
See you, bro.
Later, buddy.